Hello.
Hey,
everyone.
hello.
Hello,
good
hello.
morning, good afternoon, good evening. Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite.
Ah,
Shibuna
yeah.
Chifach.
Yeah, sunt foarte bine. Și tu?
Sunt bine, mulțumesc.
Mhm. Say
I second
Chad, what
that.
are you
bună ziua or bună seara, because actually today's the evening, so bună seara. Yeah, bună.
And Buna
Bună,
to Levin
Levin
Smith,
Smith.
whoever that
Bună.
is.
Yep.
You know Levin Smith?
Gotta say I had 11 every week.
So
That's
Matt's caustic comments. Matt's caustic comments posted a meme of Jada Pinkett Smith Levin. Have you guys seen that?
I didn't see that. No.
I haven't seen that one. That looks good.
It's so good. Let me see if I
Jada
can
Pinkett
show it to
Smith.
you. And then
Is it-
I said something like Levin Smith, and then he asked, "Who's Levin Smith?" And I said, "Clearwater Chad knows." And then he said, "Okay."
Mhm.
Let me
That's
show
I
you
can't. I
guys.
can't.
Let me-
I'm a little behind on my lore. Is Levin Smith the enemy of Griff Calzone or of Clearwater Chad? I need to know the lore.
Oh.
of Marty's husband.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that.
Or is he
There's
just
so many characters,
he
I
just-
kind of get them mixed up.
the storyline is something I need to familiarize myself.
Yeah,
Then there's also
11's
Marty,
was-
the next
Yeah,
mayor of
yeah.
Clearwater.
Marty's, I would say.
Yeah, that's my favorite character right now is Marty, even though it's the most hated. People don't like Marty's proposed $1 a gallon gas tax, so.
Oh,
Even
that's
though
just a
it's-
tax. I thought it was $1 a gallon, just period. But no, a tax. That's not good. I don't like that.
No. It's what's best for Clearwater, though, Marty thinks.
I like what he
True.
said. That it was. He said something like, "What is it, Chad? I don't have
Which part?
experience bankrupting a city yet, but
Yeah,
I'm
I
learning."
don't bankrupt. Yep, I don't have much bankruptcy like the other candidates bankrupting a town. I only have experience getting things done. That's a Ross Perot line.
So this is okay. This is Matt's
Yep.
Caustic Comments web channel. If anybody wants to check it out, it's at Matt Caustic
Mhm.
Comments, and he has a couple things. He has a spoof of Aaron's outro with instead of his daughter, it's him doing the outro, the unboxing of just some fun things. And here we go. Jada Pinkett Smith
Oh my
Levin
gosh.
denies she has ever been a member of the
Oh
Church of
my-
Scientology.
Oh wow.
Wow. That is actually pretty good. I have to say that's good Photoshop there. I could
Right.
not do a tenth of that. That's brilliant.
Me neither.
Wow.
I just wanted to bring it up because I commented Levin Smith and it was like, "It's Levin Smith." I'm like, Clearwater Chad knows.
Yep, that's funny.
Wow. Jada, what
How's
was it again?
everybody doing?
Jada Smith Levin.
Jada Pinkett Smith Levin.
Smith Levin.
How was everybody's week?
Good, good.
Good. Yeah, busy but good.
Busy
Yeah.
but good.
Busy but
Yeah.
good.
Busy can be good.
How about you guys?
Same.
Yeah,
Busy
busy
but
and
good. I was,
tiring, but not too bad.
Yeah,
I
tiring
was
is
at tiring. Yeah, I was at a student conference yesterday, and we got a free buffet lunch. So I ate a bunch of vegetables and fish, and it was awesome because it was free. So
Nice.
they say there's no such thing as a free lunch, but I say too bad. There is.
not.
That's true.
There is. And let's take a look who we have here. We have, I don't know who this guy is.
Hey,
Denver
Steve-O.
Steve-O in chat.
Hey,
I
Steve-O.
don't know who that is. We have the one and only Freezy in the project in all the chats. Let me. If I have Stephen Britton. Good morning. We have Freezy in the project in a couple different channels. He said hi to different channels.
That's
I
right.
can't see. Once again, I can't see the comments on our channel, Joe. So if there's anybody you'd like to greet, or I can't put the comments up on the screen or anything. But we have Miss Sunrise Dawn. Hi from North Georgia. Hello.
Hello.
Couch.
Hey, Couch.
Hey, Couch.
Sophia, hello.
Mm-hmm. Hello.
Yeah.
Guten Abend.
Guten Abend.
Frisiano has a problem with Marty using your channel, Chad. I
Yeah,
think you
that's-
should get Griff to sue Marty for you.
That's a good idea. Maybe he'll do that for sure.
I love to see that taken seriously and have just Chad show up in the courthouse and bounce around between three different
Yeah.
characters,
That
and
would
also
be
be the
funny.
judge, of course, and the attorneys. So you'd be playing like 6 people. It'd be great.
Like
That
to
would
see
be
that.
funny. I wonder who would win though.
Yeah, I mean,
Me.
you. It's true. You'd be a little biased.
That's
Let me
funny.
take a look at Joe's. How's your channel doing there, Joe?
That's fine. I
Any
just
conversation?
yeah. There's
No
a
conversation?
hello from Free Zuni Project to Farsec. So hello to you.
Mhm.
All right. Frisiano said hello
Um,
in every chat. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
Chat
it so
will win.
far.
Okay.
There'll be
All right, so I
questions and
opened-
comments by the end of the thing. That's fine.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I opened your stream here too, just so that I can maybe take a look at the chat. But if there's anything you need me to,
And thank you for the watch hours.
if you need it, yeah, sure. If you need anybody to pause to say something about your chat, let us.
Okay.
Miss Sunrise Dawn says, "I bet Chad would win."
Thank you.
Yeah,
I have
that would be
faith
the
in
only.
Chad.
Yeah, that'd be the only way to serve justice if Chad wins.
Thanks.
Yeah, my
Chad is the
channel
winner.
now is I have 62 subscriptions, which is nice, so subscribers. And it was at I don't know why this happens, but my total watch time was at 100 hours, and then it went down to 92 hours, and now it's almost back up at 100 again. That happens, I guess, every once in a while. But it's
definitely happens,
getting close. So hopefully this week, because I had to reschedule with someone in the SPTV community, I was going to do a like a stream with them, and then I just got home late from work. So hopefully, I think sometime either tomorrow or the next day, I'll be able to do a stream that will help promote channel again. And then what else? And then yeah, still waiting on a couple other responses. So hopefully, I'll be making the rounds to get more viewers. But I do appreciate everyone who's subscribed. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, of course, please go over. As of all of our channels as well, please go over there and subscribe to everyone. But yeah, things are sort of slowly but surely sort of making the rounds. But yeah,
I think that's okay. I think we got used to the whole super fast growth in the SPTV community because like we had this momentum that when we were monetizing Chad and like everybody was helping a lot and watching a lot, but it's gonna get there. It's gonna be, if it's more. Joe's channel has a nice growing curve that it's really more like organic. But then SPTV peaks, but
yeah.
Mitch
Hey,
Brisker,
Mitch.
Mitch
Hey,
Brisker.
Mitch.
Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Mitch.
Yeah, Romanian, right? Grandparents
Thanks for
on his
stopping by,
mother's
Mitch.
side. Oh, wow. Yeah. Nice country, beautiful country. I don't know if you've ever been, Mitch, but it's beautiful out there.
Miss Sunrise Dawn asks, "What's your channel's names?" I have banners for those. Let's see. Clearwater Chad says, this. Well, these are the handles, so you can just search with the @Clearwater Chad 9037, or you can just look for Clearwater Chad. Sometimes, well, Chad's channel and Joe's channel are bigger than mine and Mark's, but sometimes the smaller channels you can't really find just with the name, so it's nice to have the handle, the @. Mine is @ScienTheologist. Then let me see. These two were ready from Monday, so they were easier to get. Denver Stevo is not here, but he is here. Is @Denver Stevo. And this is streaming to his channel too, even though he's not here right now. But Joe's channel is @Joe Giuseppo. And then she also has the podcast @ _. under not slash. What's that called?
Underscore.
Score. Thank you. Underscore
Genau.
the underscore. Ach. At Joe DeSeppo. And then you read the other one here. And Mark Turris is at Mark A. Turri.
Mhm.
So there you go, Zeros. Also, our channels are also in the description of the videos. Yeah. Mitch says he's never been.
Ever been to Romania? Yeah. If you get a chance, Mitch, it's nice. You can. I don't know if you know where your grandparents, like what their villages were, where they were from, but it's always nice to go back to find where your family kind of came from and whatnot. And yeah, Romania is a very, very interesting place. Really interesting culture if you like old castles, especially. Great, great, beautiful stuff there. I've been now like 4 or 5 times, and one of my favorite places was a place called Peles Castle, which is in north of Bucharest, in a place called Sinaia, which is just a gorgeous, gorgeous place. So, and also Bran Castle near Brașov, which is also a beautiful city. So, there's just tons of amazing little places in Romania that nobody would really know about unless you went there. Because unfortunately, the Romanian government doesn't really advertise its tourism very much. Should, but it doesn't really. And Sighișoara is another amazing place. It's just, yeah, beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous places. So, if you're ever up to it, you can always head out there and yeah, find out where your ancestors come from. It's actually, quite cool.
I think this would be a nice segue to get into your presentation. There's a
Sure.
couple comments here that I starred. We'll get to them towards the end. So I'm sorry if Frizino has an interesting idea, Sophia has a comment, but I don't know. Unless you guys want to read these comments before you start, what do you want to do?
It's up to you guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
Should we come to them at the end, or
Up to you guys.
Okay. So let me
anything
get them.
particularly pressing?
No, I just wanted to get them out of the way just in case somebody's not here towards the end and they just want
Yeah.
to.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go for
go
it.
ahead. Go ahead.
This one is in Mark's channel, I believe, if you want to read it.
Oh, I see a word we can't say on YouTube there.
Oh,
Yeah, I just said I
okay.
recently got our edition of Invest Nicht Neues out and found a pretty interesting description of the Nazi reaction to it. So yeah, with Macht, we were talking about All Quiet on the Western Front, Investen Nicht Neues, and of course it's a book from the 20s about World War I. And so I was asking her what the reaction was, but I guess it was burned. So negative reaction because it's an anti-war. So I get that makes sense as I'm thinking about it. Very much an anti-war book, and so yeah, makes sense in that way. And yeah, so they burned it. They burned a lot as well, unfortunately, including a lot of works from Jewish writers, but also anything that was anti-war.
Miss Sunrise Dawn says, I've seen you around, Juliana. Let's put a face with the name. Hi, it's me. Like Soup says, hi, it's me, it's my face.
Nice.
And Frizino Project has an idea for Chad.
Chad, new character idea. I think you should do Boldy Bailiff, talking about being a bailiff for Danny Masterson in both trials. Good idea. Good idea.
There you go.
I'm a sucker for satire.
Well, I was going to ask you off air. I was thinking about doing you next, Mark.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Next week we're gonna. Well, we talk about that after, but we're gonna introduce.
Yeah.
I'm gonna introduce the character next week, and
Okay.
because we'll have a Halloween special. It's just a small preview. We'll go into more details after presentation's over. But and I won't give the name. I won't give any description, but I will just say that I have discovered a rival of Griff Calzone. I may be named after another Italian pastry. I'm just letting you know. If you want to concoct your own ideas about that, but we'll have to wait till next week because it's going to be great. And I may or may not speak in an accent that I'm not exactly comfortable with. I might not be good at it, but I love speaking in it. So I hope I don't offend people from that particular city. But you know what? I'm going to do my best. So there we go.
And meanwhile, Griff's
come
going to do his
back.
worst.
I'm sorry, Chad.
Oh, sorry. I said Griff's going to do his worst
Yep.
because Griff likes to insult people.
We'll be bouncing around each other. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So you guys be sure to come back next week for the Halloween special.
Yeah.
All right, want me to pop
Yeah.
this up?
Of course. Yes, please. Yeah, I'd love to get into this. This is
Move you up.
yeah, so this is the presentation I'm going to do today is on the history of Romania from 1918 until 1989, and this is actually taken from a PowerPoint presentation I did. I guess it would have been about a year ago, more or less, maybe a little more than a year ago, in a particular course on European dictatorships. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to look at the historical changes of Romania following World War I. We're going to talk about the beginning and the end of communism, and then we're going to just have a one slide of how what Romania is like now, or at least what it was like in the early 2000s. And sort of before I go on, Romanian and Romanian history is something I've been very interested in, and of course I can't cover everything, but I'm trying to cover some major points here. And forgive me if it's a little bit, might be a slight bit long today, but I'm going to try to do my best to make everything very comprehensive and hopefully not go on for too long, but it may be a little bit longer just because I have it's a lot of information, but I'm going to do my absolute best to go along and to, present this as best as I can. So the first, again, we're going to just talk about mainly 20th century history. And of course, most of us know what happened at the end of the First World War, how it began and so forth. So I don't really need to go through that. But my first slide today is of a very interesting event. So by the end of the First World War, specifically by November of 1918, before the armistice was signed on the 11th of November, the Austro-Hungarian Empire was actually losing a very major battle in northeastern Italy. They had attacked and they had tried to take these particular objective cities around the Alps and villages, and they had attacked and done a numerous amounts of attacks here in northeastern Italy. And I think by like the fourth or fifth attempt, they had just lost so much men. So one of the reasons why the November 11th armistice was signed was because on the Western Front, Germany had been losing the 100-day offensive, and they were losing soldiers. And of course, that had a lot to do with the US joining the war and Canadians also doing very well and the Brits doing very well in Belgium and France. But specifically in Italy, the Austro-Hungarian Empire would surrender its army just a short period before the 11th of November. So 2 days after the armistice is signed, the Romanian army came in to occupy Budapest and also occupy the country of Hungary and certain Hungarian territories. But specifically, their target was to go to Budapest and to sort of hold it while the war was ending and while the armistices were being signed, to make sure that the Hungarian army wouldn't rebuild and make another attack or so forth. And so we have two interesting photos here. The first photo on the left is a group of Romanian soldiers, Romanian troops from the army, just outside of the Hungarian Parliament building, which is here in Budapest, which is a public building that if you're ever in town, you can see it. There's plenty of other more modern pictures. It's right on the river. It's very, very beautiful. But you can kind of see it here, the older building that was here. and it looks like at least a company, probably at least a couple hundred troops that are stationed there. And then on the right, we have, of course, we have a group of 5 men, and of course, please note that 4 of these men are in military attire. 1 is in a suit, in a black suit, and that's the second from the left, that individual. And that was the king at the time. His name was King Ferdinand I. And this photo was taken in a border city, or at least a city close to the border called Békéscsaba, which is very, very, close. I think today maybe less than 20 kilometers from the actual Romanian border. So, part of this occupation was, again, for the Romanians to come in and just make sure that there wouldn't have been any secondary attacks from the Austro-Hungarians. Um, the Another very, very important thing to note is that when King Ferdinand took the throne in 1914, in the fall, he actually waited until 1916 in order to join the war effort on the side of the Allies, we would call them that, Great Britain, France, and so forth, and the US eventually. So he actually kept out of the war for the first 2 years and then joined the war in 1916. Of course, Austria-Hungary, along with Germany, and of course, along with the Ottoman Empire, were on the losing side. And so, of course, they would take the brunt of the Paris peace conferences, as well as the treaties of Versailles, which there were many of them. And I'll get into one in a moment, one specific one in a moment. But King Ferdinand, again, ended up joining the winning side 2 years into the war. And so this was one of the reasons that he was able to occupy the city for the Allied forces. Again, during that massive time of the Treaty of Versailles, which ends the war and then cuts up the German, Austro-Hungarian, and eventually the Ottoman Empire, was this treaty, which recently celebrated its 100 years in just a couple years ago, which is called the Treaty of Trianon. And depending on who you ask here in Hungary, it either is, something that just happened that we need to kind of move on from, or it was the greatest tragedy of the greatest horrible thing that's ever happened in Hungarian history. And this is why the 100th year anniversary was also quite interesting to be here in Hungary, because a lot of books came out on it. But eventually, the Treaty of Trianon had, of course, a couple of purposes. The first one was that it formally ended the First World War between Austria-Hungary and the Allies. In this case, I say the Allies, again, Great Britain, France, Italy, etc. So the war ended for Austria-Hungary, although they signed the armistice. Officially, it was done with the Treaty of Trianon. And then if we can see in the photo here, there's Hungary in the middle, which is what Hungary looks like today. But then there's this outline in black that kind of goes around Hungary to the north, south, east, and west. And that was historically called the Kingdom of Hungary. And around 2/3 of the Kingdom of Hungary were given to new nations that were, that came forth in 1921. So we can see in the north here, that's mainly Slovakia, which today is its own independent nation. But in the east, there's a part of it that was called Carpathian Rus, or the Carpathian Rusland, or something like this, Ruthenia, Carpathia, Ruthenia. And that today is actually part of Ukraine. So at the time, that was given to Czechoslovakia. To the west, we had areas that were given over called the Burgenland. Some of it was given to Austria, that at the time became an actual republic. And then some of it was given to what today would be Slovenia, which again would at the time have been Yugoslavia. In the south, we have a part of Croatia. It's an area called Slavonia, and you can see on these pie charts, it's the one that has the majority yellow pie chart. So that's Slavonia. That, of course, today is part of Croatia. It was then part of Yugoslavia. And then next to it, to the south, is an area called Vojvodina, which is today in Serbia. Again, that was part of, went Yugoslavia, and there are, as we can see in that territory, there are some Hungarians. The Hungarian peoples are in the red color, so you can see there's a lot of Hungarian communities in that area. But the big focus here, of course, is Transylvania, which is to the east, and it is a massive, massive land territory, which has the pie chart that is majority blue. Of course, it does have some red, which are the Hungarians, and then green on this map are the Germans, and there were a lot more German-speaking Transylvanians at this time. So, Transylvania becomes a part of Romania after this time. And one of the reasons it became, although there's many different reasons why that was in the 1910 census. And this is very important because that was the final census taken in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And at the time, the empire calculated that there were 2.8 million Romanians, ethnic Romanians, that lived in Transylvania. And at that time, which was in 1910, that was 54% of the population. According to some Romanian sources, and this is pretty much disputed by Hungarian sources, but at least among census that were taken in the 20s by Romania, by 1921, apparently, again, according to Romanian sources, 65% of Transylvanian residences were ethnically Romanian as opposed to Hungarian. And this is quite a big line of contention in Hungary, whether, Transylvania should be a part of Romania or should it be returned to Hungary. Today, I don't know if it makes much sense because there's certainly far more Romanians and at least since the 1920s and at least since 1910, there's been more. So it might be hard to incorporate into Hungary, but there's still people who would like Romania to be, returned. But regardless, the area of Transylvania became a part of Romania. And the next slide looks at the Romania's territorial expansion following World War I. As I mentioned again, King Ferdinand was able to side himself with the winners. And so, as they say, to the victors go the spoils. And Romania would end up gaining at least 2.5 times its size. And so by 1921, this is what Romania looked like. And of course, we have two different colors here, and I sort of just want to briefly get into that. The lighter color, I guess it's kind of a yellow peach color, I guess, is Romania at 1912. And it consisted of 3 historical regions. In the north, it was called Moldavia. Its capital is called Iași. Wallachia, the capital of Romania today, called Bucharest. And then on the coast, there is, of course, what's called North Dobruja. In 1878, so we go back a couple decades, in 1878, the Russians won a war against the Ottoman Empire and were able to release Romania from its Ottoman influence and its Ottoman domination. And so from 1878 to 1912, these lighter colors was what Romania essentially was. And it had been able to gain parts of the Black Sea because of Russia, which had previously been part of Bulgaria. So by 1921, we can see that Romania gains another couple of territories. The first territory, again, in addition to this large landmass of Transylvania, which again, we can see how massive and imposing it is on this map. There's also an area called Bessarabia, and Bessarabia is in the furthest northeast corner. And today, Bessarabia is shared by mostly the Republic of Moldova, but the southern parts that are along the Black Sea and the northern parts that in this map would border Poland in the USSR are actually part of today's Ukraine. In addition, the area of southern Dobruja, which includes the city of Varna, which today is part of Bulgaria, was also given to Romania following the First World War. And then if we go all the way to the north center, in between Transylvania and Bessarabia, there's an area called Bukovina. And Bukovina today in the north which includes a city called Chernivtsi, something like this, if I'm pronouncing it correct, is part of Ukraine, but the south part, which has a city called Suceava, is today part of Romania. But you could see this massive, massive territorial expansion. I mean, again, they doubled their size, within a short period of time. And so, one of the advantages of, again, of being part of the winning team in a war is that Romania went from this kind of L-shaped, sort of backward L-shaped territory until this larger expansion on the coastline into Eastern Europe and then into Central Europe. I wanted to get into a little bit about the monarchy and the kings of Romania because it's very, very interesting. Some of the kings, especially that. So, again, mentioning again the fact that Romania is kind of again released from Ottoman rule in 1878. It wasn't until 1882 that Romania was able to get its first king, and his name was King Carol I. And King Carol I reigned from 1882 until he died in the fall of 1914. What's also interesting about this is that the Romanian kings were part of a German house of a Prussian German house. And why they did that, they didn't, for example, pick a Romanian family, was because they wanted to avoid conflict with the Romanian nobility. So a German-speaking noble in person was elected, or excuse me, not elected, was assigned to become the king. And that was Carol I. And so from 1882 to 1914, he was the king. I mentioned King Ferdinand I, who was the second king. He takes over in the fall of 1914, but he dies in 1927. In 1927, this gentleman, King Michael I, takes over. And at this time, King Michael is a 6-year-old boy. Okay, that's it. He's 6. So obviously, there was quite a hurry to appoint a king, and they picked the next in line. Next in line was a 6-year-old King Michael, and he's on the throne basically for 3 years until some of the other nobilities and people in the Romanian, government kind of look at his reign as being kind of a joke. Kind of, they wanted to be taken more seriously. So when King Michael was 9, he was, I guess, deposed, if that's what we want to say, and he advocated to the next in line after him, which is King Carol II. Now, King Carol's reign is one that is kind of mixed between kind of sad but also kind of interesting at the same time. So King Carol II during the 1930 from 1930 to 1940 was actually known as the Playboy of Romania, who had more interests in having affairs with mistresses than he was the King of Romania. So, of course, we know that in 1939, the Second World War breaks out on the 1st of September. And King Carol is completely unaware of this fact. He has no idea that the Second World War had even started, at least until some time after it started, at least according to him. Who knows if that was true, but he was definitely outside of Romania, dating princesses and so forth and duchesses, and just wasn't interested. So in the kind of jump to be serious and to make the monarchy more serious, in 1940, King Carol is removed and a more serious and more proper king is taken over. And that becomes King Michael I's second reign. So in 1940, he is a 19-year-old young man, and then he will reign until 1947. So, yes, almost as if a monarchy is a silly idea. Yes, thank you for saying that, Joe, who is British. Uh, yes, I'll emphasize almost. But yes. So from 1882 until 1947, we have this state called the Kingdom of Romania. And of course, it goes through multiple different types of, reigns of people and so forth. But again, by at least 1940, by the time the war is breaking out, there are some changes that are going on in Romania that bring it into the Second World War. This is the first thing. This gentleman. This gentleman is named Ion Antonescu, and in 1938, while there is this, unease and uncertainty with the king, Carol being weak and, being a figurehead and not really wanting to be king necessarily, Ion Antonescu is able to become the prime minister of Romania. He's able to take power, and he sides himself with Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, and also people like Francisco Franco and Salazar in Portugal, and the other, fascists and Nazis of the day, including the Aerocross Party in Hungary. So he becomes a quick ally to the far right and begins to side on many issues, including being very anti-Semitic. He also takes control of the military and founded a group, I should say, called the Iron Guard, which is what we would call, the Romanian fascist movement is called the Iron Guard. And it not only was very anti-Semitic, but it was also anti-Hungarian, and it was very anti-Roma. So all of those populations from 1938 until 1945 were affected very harshly by the Iron Guard and Ion Antonescu. One of the things that I do find kind of interesting about Ion is that when Ion was growing up, his parents split up, and his father ended up remarrying, and he remarried to a Jewish woman. And we have some primary sources from Ion who said that when his parents divorced, he obviously went through a time of, alienation and uncertainty, and blamed this Jewish woman for breaking up his parents' marriage, which he claimed was a stable, loving marriage. And he said that his stepmother, his Jewish stepmother, put a curse on his father, and he blamed not only her, but all Jews everywhere for breaking up his parents' marriage. So he was very anti-Semitic, of course, according to his father. He didn't have a very good marriage with Ion's mother, and so he fell in love with this Jewish woman, and it was very hard for Ion to accept that. But we can see, of course, some themes of anti-Semitism that are coming from personal experiences, but also misinformation. So 1938, again, he takes power, and he becomes very active in the Romanian army into World War II, specifically by 1941. So here's the Romanian territorial expansion during the Second World War. Romania will gain 2 territories, but it will then lose 2 territories. So the first territory, and again, I'm going to go through from 1 to 4 here. That first territory goes back to Bessarabia. Bessarabia goes back and forth between Russia and between Romania, during the interwar period, also through World War I and through World War II. So in 1941, Bessarabia is then taken by Romania. Previously, of course, it had been a part of Russia. Then it becomes part of Romania. But by the end of the war, it goes back to the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union then, when it breaks up, that's when we have parts of Bessarabia being part of modern Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova. Number 2 on this map is also a very interesting landmass here. The Hungarians were able to carve out a piece here called Northern Transylvania. And if we go back, I just want to briefly go back a couple slides to this map. You can see how when we look at Transylvania, so the eastern part of the map, there is a very big community of Hungarians on the eastern periphery here of Transylvania. This is called the Székely land, or Székelyföld in Hungarian, also called the Szekler land. We talked about this very briefly when we talked about Dracula a couple weeks ago, and I mentioned that Count Dracula. Just one moment, Juliana. So that Count Dracula was a CK person, was a CK Hungarian, and so this is their origin. But yes, Juliana. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering because I look at the pie charts, and then you have for Hungarian, Romania, you have the what's that called? This not what's that called? The thing where you have the names, the code. Anyway,
The colors, or
the what? I'm sorry.
the chart, I guess the chart with the names on them.
Yeah, the part that you have where you have the names. I'm thinking of a word, but I'm not really thinking. I'm wanting a word that I don't
Table.
have.
Table.
Label.
Label. Yeah, I
Label.
guess label.
Key.
Labels. Yeah, key would work, but label I think would be good.
Sure.
And that's for the pie charts. And then the map is like in green, and then there's the red parts. And then you said that to the
Sure.
east there is Hungarian. So is the red in the map also Hungarians?
That's correct. Yes. So I think
Oh.
yeah, that's right. So all the red on this map is Hungarian. So that this kind of like separate mass, you can kind of see that along the border in Romania, there's a lot of Hungarians, but that really, really big mass in the east, that is the Székely land, or the Székelyföld. So this is like a really big community of Hungarians that moved there and migrated there in the sort of medieval times. There's some legends about them being, descendants of Attila the Hun, which is not true, but they are considered to be I guess, like a subcategory of Hungarians. And they have their own flag. They have kind of a different dialect of Hungarian and so forth. So they are considered Hungarians, but they're also like considered kind of a different people group as well, different ethnicity maybe. So the whole point is that if I go back here to number 7, excuse me, number,
Thank you.
going ahead too much. Where did I go now? No, I'm going ahead of myself. Jan Antonescu. Okay. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I went ahead and then I went back again. So if we look at number 2, the Hungarians wanted to, during World War II, were able to actually take back some of the territory that were majority Hungarian, that they had lost during the Treaty of Versailles and the Treaty of Trianon. So they took over southern Slovakia, they took over parts of western Ukraine, and they carved out this area. So this number 2 is actually part of Hungary. And that was them linking Hungary proper with the Székely land. So that was their attempt to bring at least part of Transylvania back into Hungary. Now, it only lasted for 3 years, okay, and the territory ended up being returned, but that was the attempt of the fascist Hungarian state, was that it wanted to take back lands from Slovakia, from Russia, from Romania, and also from Yugoslavia, which it did for 3 years. So that's the number 2 spot. So that's a territory that Romania lost for 3 years. Then the other one is number 3, which is South Dobruja. It goes again back to Bulgaria, 1941. And then finally, for 3 years, there's this area in number 4, which is next to number 1, which is the furthest north and eastern territory that Romania was able to acquire. It's called Transnistria, and that includes the city of Odessa. So during World War II, for 3 years, the Romanian army and the Romanian military did occupy Odessa in Ukraine and the surrounding areas, which go fairly far north. Now, why was this? Was because, of course, when the German army invaded the Soviet Union between 1941 and then eventually they started to fall away after the Battle of Stalingrad in 1943, the German army expanded quite substantially through Eastern Europe, through Ukraine, through Belarus, through Russia, etc. And not only did Hungary join the war effort on the Eastern Front, but so did the Romanians. So at the Battle of Stalingrad, which is very tragically considered to be the bloodiest battle in human history, I think they calculated somewhere around 1.5 million casualties were either killed, injured, or whatever, killed, injured, lost, or etc., and wounded during that battle. Romanian soldiers fought alongside the Germans, as did Hungarians. So this was its territorial expansion. So it did ended up getting quite, again, even larger, although it lost North Transylvania to the Hungarians, which was a thing between allies, and then it loses, of course, South Dobruja to Bulgaria, who was also an ally, by the way. So they were not taken by force; they were just given away. They were able to expand more territory along the coast. So this is what Ion Antonescu was able, at least, to do from 1941 to 1944. The next slide here, I wanted to briefly touch on the Holocaust in Romania, because as I mentioned, Ion Antonescu was very anti-Semitic due to his tragic, his upbringing with this, his stepmother and so forth. So, which is just really disgusting to say, someone puts a curse on your family and all this kind of stuff. I'm not sure how many people here, I'm sure maybe some people do, some people don't, have heard the term pogrom before. Pogroms were, and I guess you could say, there are pogroms in modern history. It's basically when one group of people makes a random, very violent, bloody attack against another one. And in the late 19th century to the early 20th century, there were hundreds of pogroms in places like today's Poland. Then it would have been the Russian Empire and so forth, against the Jewish community. So in cities like Chisinau, Krakow, Warsaw, Minsk, Odessa, Moscow, Vilnius, Riga, there had been, in some cases, like in Odessa, there were 5 pogroms between 1860s, 1870s until like 1910. And so again, these were just random acts of violence against the community. But in 1941, in June, in the span of just 2 or 3 days, Ion Antonescu and the Iron Guard went into that city of Iași, which is in the northwestern part of Romania, which is was the capital of Moldavia, and there were 13,266 Jewish victims. So that is considered the bloodiest pogrom in human history. So that was even bloodier than the ones in Odessa. One of the ones in Odessa, I think 1903 or something, claimed 2,000 lives. So this was one of the worst offenses against the Jewish population. And that again committed very precisely here, committed against the Iron Guard and Ion Antonescu. If you also take a look at the map too, you'll see again this scale here. The darker blue means the majority of the Jewish community. So Bucharest had a very big community, which we can see in the south of Jewish community. In the north, we see Iași. If we go over to what is Moldova, we have Chisinau. But if we go to that territory of northern Transylvania, we have a lot of different cities like Oradea, Satu Mare, and Cluj. And in fact, in one of those places, which is in the very top northwestern part of Romania, is the city Satu Mare. In 1938, 50% of that city was Jewish. So that is one of the most populated Jewish areas in the world at the time. And again, tragically, due to the Holocaust, most of those were claimed victims. But the point here that I wanted to mention as well is that the total victims of the Romanian Jewish community sat between 380 and 400,000. And of course, before the war, there were roughly 757,000 Jews in Romania. To note, again, going back to Ion here, he claimed that there were actually around 2 to 3 million Jewish people in Romania. He believed that many of the Jewish community in Romania had been hiding and that they had taken up positions, and this also goes back to these anti-Semitic tropes, that they had infiltrated academia and education and finances and banking and media. This is typical kind of, the Jews run the media, the Jews run the economy, the Jews run the universities. And this is really, really something that in Jewish history, when I tell people we only have 16 million Jewish people in the world and they scoff or gawk or whatever and, smirk or whatever, it's kind of disconcerting because, saying that we have more people than what we really do has kind of an anti-Semitic twist. And that is something that Ion Antonescu, definitely made popular. I do want to say at least, the good news was that finally King Michael was able to get support from the Allies, from Great Britain, from the US, and so forth. And in 1945, the king and some of his his allied troops in Romania finally found Ion Antonescu, where he was arrested. And then after the war was over, Romania had a war crimes tribunal, and Ion Antonescu and many others on the Iron Guard, not just him, who were collaborators with the Nazis, were put to justice, and Ion Antonescu was executed. So sometimes people call this the Romanian Nuremberg trials. Of course, not actually the Nuremberg trials. That's a very specific place and time, but sometimes these war tribunals are called Romania's, Romania's version of Nuremberg. But that ended at least that era of of the Kingdom of Romania and then of fascist Romania. In 1946, when a totally new era begins for Romania, the Red Army had obviously come through Eastern and Europe. It had come through, Moldova and Romania, and the political climate in this area, especially in Romania, was starting to turn. So, in 1946, there was an election held in Romania, and a coalition of left-wing parties were able to take a plurality in the parliament. They were not able to form a government, but various socialist parties, communist parties, agrarian parties, and so forth were at least able to become the majority. However, about a year later, this gentleman, his name is Gheorghiu Dej, takes power in 1947 and changes the name of the country to the People's Republic of Romania. So he becomes the first communist leader / dictator of Romania. Romania under Gheorghiu Dej is a very interesting time because it's certainly not great in that it is a single party state. It is very authoritarian, but it will get worse as time goes on, and I will get into that in future slides. So the first major event to happen was that in December of 1947, King Michael I advocated his throne, and he would go into exile in Switzerland. And I believe he passed away not terribly long ago, within 10 years ago, in Switzerland, but he would stay there for, the remainder of his life. The next year in 1948, Romania and the Communist Party would draft a new constitution in which Romania was declared as a Marxist-Leninist state. It then began to enforce atheism as the state, whatever you want to call it, religion, philosophy. This led to religious persecution of churches and synagogues. This included that there should be no public demonstrations of religions and no missionary activities. They were all considered banned. And then the government would end up nationalizing all church property, including church schools. And this would happen, this would go on until 1965 when Gheorghiu Dej dies of lung cancer. And this gentleman, his name is Nicolae Ceausescu, becomes the next leader and the last leader of communist Romania. And I do want to say that Nicolae Ceausescu is someone who will always, I think, be burned into the collective consciousness of the Romanian people for some of the things that he did, and very much in a tremendously negative way. His name, that name Ceausescu, stirs up even today a lot of emotions in the Romanian people, mainly negative. But this is a picture of him around the time that he took power again in the 1960s. So to get into Ceausescu, because it is a lot, I am going to break it up into 3 different eras. And these eras get progressively worse. So the earliest era of Ceausescu, which I have stated here, is from 1965 until 1976, is probably considered the best of the remaining 2 eras. And why is this? Because for the first decade and plus a year, Ceausescu basically starts to expand and continue some of the policies of Gheorghe Dej. So the first thing he does, though, is he does change the name of the nation. Instead of the People's Republic of Romania, it's now called the Socialist Republic of Romania. However, like Gheorghe Dej, Ceausescu for the first decade would support Western and non-Soviet backed nations. He was actually allied and had friendly relations with West Germany. Of course, that's a big no-no because East Germany was essentially a Soviet satellite state. Both China and Albania were very anti-Soviet. China had been anti-Soviet since the days of Mao, which was from 1949 to 1976. Albania had left the Warsaw Pact in 1960, and so they were very upset with Stalin, but also with Khrushchev and the people following him. Israel, of course, through the 1960s and 70s, a lot of the socialist world, because Israel was founded as a socialist country and there was only one socialist government with 2 different parties from 48 until 77. So many people felt that they had turned their back on that world, and Romania had friendly relationships with them. And then Chile, we should know, of course, Chile goes through a mountain of different, governments. They had a communist government under Salvador Allende, and then he was uprooted by Pinochet. But they had friendly relationships between Romania, of course, and Chile. One thing that Ceausescu continued was the Russian culture was beginning to disappear from everyday life in Romania. Russian culture had been very particularly strong in the late 1940s, early 1950s, again, particularly during the Stalin era. And that meant that Russian was the de facto second language. Everybody was to learn it. They had a lot of Russian media, Russian alphabet, Russian language was really influential. But that started to disappear after Stalin died, and this would continue in what was called de-Russification. And then at least up until sometime in the 1970s, Western media was allowed to be consumed in Romania. So at one time during the Gheorghe Dej and the early Ceausescu era, you could get a copy of, the New York Times, you could listen to Radio Free Europe, the Financial Times, Times of London. There was some access. It might have been limited in some places, but at least during this time, Western media could be consumed. This would dramatically change, however, when by the 1980s, Ceausescu had installed radio and television wave blockers on the major telecommunication sites in Romania to prevent outside, especially Western media. But again, at least for the first decade and a half, at least Western media was allowed. So the free press was stronger in this area and, of course, became worse as time went on. This is what I call the middle Ceausescu era, which is from 1977 until 1988. In 1977, tragically, there was an earthquake called the Varantia earthquake. It was a magnitude of 7.5 on the Richter scale, and it claimed 1,578 Romanian lives, and most of which, over 1,400, were in and around Bucharest. So this was the first challenge that Ceausescu was faced with because he had to call a national emergency. Between 1980 and 1982, this is when the economy started to change. Ceausescu started to invoke and enact what are called austerity measures. This means that he scaled back on some of the welfare programs and social programs that we, may associate with a communist or socialist state. The national debt of Romania increased. He also took out a lot of loans from the International Monetary Fund. And during the 1940s, 50s, and into the 60s and 70s, Romania actually had a very strong manufacturing industry. They made a lot of farming equipment, in particular tractors and other forms of farming equipment. But by the 80s, that industry had become stagnant and it lowered the competitiveness. Prices went up as they do. And of course, people were turning to other alternatives rather than Romania to get their farming equipment, particularly because things were expanding. The West also was expanding and so forth during this time. And in the West, things became cheaper. So it really affected not just the Romanian economy, but the austerity measures that were enacted would affect the Romanian people themselves. So this is sort of the final year or the final era, we could say, of Ceausescu. 1988, I do want to mention that there were, in 1987 and 1988, there were strikes. Believe it was in 1987, there was a strike among truck workers and truck drivers in Brasov. So there was a general uneasiness and labor disputes. But by 1989, things began to take a turn for the worst. So in March of 1989, protests began due to the national debt repayment of 11 billion US dollars. This was an event where, and we have this on our thumbnail, that is the picture of the palace. This is where Ceausescu would go on his balcony, and there was a square that was below the balcony, and the Romanian people would gather to listen to Ceausescu. So in this particular event, he goes to his balcony and he is kind of tone deaf to the people, because he was telling them that they should be happy that he had repaid this loan of $11 billion early. And that was a good thing. But of course, the people had been suffering through, he was telling people to eat less calories. They had to do a lot of sacrifices. They had this economic stagnation, and the people were not really having it. So he was a little bit tone deaf. He didn't really read the room very well, and it did anger a lot of people because, again, for him, it was a positive thing, but for everyone else, it was not. And then in November of 1989, Ceausescu was re-elected as the general secretary of the Communist Party of Romania. Essentially, when the Communist Party elects someone, it's not a free election. This would have been a small group of people, a secret meeting with a ballot, and a lot of Romanians at this time were trying to be optimistic because after 24 years of this dictatorship, they really wanted another, another leader, perhaps somebody younger. And I believe that this was shortly after, and I forget the actual date this happened on, either a few days before or a few days after was the fall of the Berlin Wall, which happened on the 9th of November. So I can't remember again if this happened a few days before or a few days after, but the world was obviously changing and it was about to change quite dramatically. So to have, Ceausescu be quote unquote re-elected, and yes, Joe, in quotes, elected, because it was just a small group of people in a room, yay or nay, and they all said yay because they didn't want to get shot. He was re-elected, and that angered the people of Romania who were looking for some kind of change, again, a younger leader, a different leader, etc. Well, the end of communism comes in the month of December of 1989. In the middle of that month, the Romanian Revolution begins in the city of Timișoara, which is a very beautiful city I highly recommend, in southwestern Romania. It's in an area called the Banat, and if you go to their history museum, you can actually see a photojournalist that took pictures, and there's a wonderful, wonderful exhibit about the beginnings of the Romanian Revolution in local museums. They're very proud of that. So by the middle of December and by the late middle of December, the Romanian Revolution had spread to pretty much every major urban center in Romania, which there are quite a lot of. On the 21st of December of 1989, Ceausescu returned to his palace and went to his balcony, and he addressed a crowd. And the crowd, for the first time in 24 years, turned on him, and they began chanting, Timișoara, 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 Timișoara. And what's very interesting about this is it was all captured live on television, and you can actually see the moment when Ceausescu realizes that he has lost the crowd, that the crowd is turning on him. And so if I go back here, I forgot to mention, of course, the lady on to the left here, that's Elena Ceausescu. That is the wife of Nicolae. And again, she's also on his right or our left here. That's his wife, Elena. So both, like immediately after this, his final speech, as it's called, on the 21st, his wife, Elena, and him, they fled the palace. They fled the city of Bucharest. And they were found shortly later, I think a day or two later, on the 22nd, 23rd, in a village called Târgoviște, which is north of Bucharest. And in the next preceding days, between the 23rd, the 24th of December of 1989, they were given a trial. And till the very end, Ceausescu said that he did everything for Romania. He did everything to save and help the Romanian people, but of course, he was found guilty. And on the 25th of December, both Elena and him were escorted to the courtyard of this estate, and they were executed. They were shot by Romanian troops. And you can go to this estate in Târgoviște today, and you will see an outline of where their bodies fell. And again, this was all live on television. So if you go to YouTube, there is an ABC, American Broadcasting Corporation, ABC, a piece that was done around this time on the Romanian Revolution. I highly recommend it. I even remember watching this as a child live, and then I remember watching it later in high school. It's a very, very good series. It's about 1 hour long, and you can watch all the things that lead up to this. So ABC was there, all these, BBC was there, everything was there. And yes, the execution is graphic, of course, trigger warning for that if you watch it, but you can also, you can also see the what's it called? The lead up in 1989. So finally, here's my last slide. So 1990 begins a new era. I think that's it. Yeah, Death of a Dictator. I believe that's the one, Juliana.
Okay,
yeah, Death of a Dictator. Yeah, and it's on YouTube. Yeah. So 1990 begins a new era for the Romanian people. The first elections, the free elections, since the fall of communism happened on the 20th of May, 1990, and a gentleman named Ion Ilinescu, who was a social democrat, would be able to become the first freely elected leader of Romania. King Michael would return in the early 90s, and there was even talk about reinstating the monarchy in the middle 90s. Never happened. Romania is still a republic, but at least King Michael was able to return a couple times until his death. In the 90s and early 2000s, they transitioned from a more socialist economy to a market-based economy. And Romania would join NATO in 2004, and then it officially joined the European Union in 2007. So the last thing that I do want to say is that Romania is struggling. Today, they are plagued, unfortunately, by a lot of corruption in their politics. They have received a lot of loans from the EU, especially in the early 2000s and mid 2000s, that unfortunately has gone to the hands of local politicians. Infrastructure is not as good as what it is in Hungary. It's very hard to travel if you don't have a car, and even if you do, very hard to travel between cities. Trains and roads are not as good as some of the neighboring countries. But the good news is that they are a very strong people. They have a very interesting culture. They are the only Latin-speaking country within Eastern Orthodox majority population, and they're very, very proud. So I really enjoy going to Romania. The Romanian language is also very interesting. In 2 weeks' time, we're going to talk about the actual language. And, it's a struggle for them, but, they're slowly inching along to becoming a more modern And with that, that's my presentation. So thanks everyone for listening. Again, I hope that wasn't too long, but appreciate everyone's attention.
That was great, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Sorry
everybody.
for
Yeah, thank you.
What's Misk?
Kupachera. And that's for Juliana. Ku.
Cool. Cool piacere. Do you know this? This reminds me of my. I've been told that my accent in Romanian has a slight Russian sound to it because I learned
Right.
with Moldovans. And just the way you pronounce cu placere, different. Like I would say, cu placere is kind of different, but yeah, interesting.
Kupachera. It's actually both. Doesn't matter. Kupachera. Yeah, again, it's an accent
Yeah.
difference, but it's all the same.
Scusas, but
Yeah, I know. One of the accent differences that I heard between Bucharest and Cluj is, we know for the pronoun I is pronounced eu in Romanian, but in Transylvania they say yo, which is the Hungarian word for good. So when we say good morning, we say jó reggelt, so yo, so it's jó sunt in Transylvania, whereas it's jó sunt in the other parts of Romania. So I kind of like that, the fact that there's a little adoption of a Hungarian sounding yo.
And for Juliana, it's the
Oi.
same spelling as you.
Yeah, EU.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
and it also, when we have an E, and this is what I'll get into in a couple weeks, when there's an E, just a lone E at the beginning of a word, it takes the Russian pronunciation, which is yeah, and that's directly from Russian, because otherwise it's pronounced or a. Usually, if it's in the middle of a word, a if it's at the end, but specifically if it's at the beginning, it's
I understand.
yeah, ooh.
Not sure.
Yeah.
Guys, I have some starred comments here. There's not a lot going on, but I'm just gonna pop some up here. So if you want to take this, Mark.
Sure. I'm interested since my dad was born 1933 Norway. His dad, a Norwegian naval sea captain who fought World War II carrying jet fuel, all crude oil across the Atlantic blown out of the water. Yeah, twice by U-boats. I knew someone who was in the Canadian Navy. I think he may have recently passed away, but he was on those convoys, and so he always had stories of U-boats going between Halifax and London, and that was very dangerous to be on those convoys. And yeah, absolutely, going with oil was like that was just something that was like unbelievably dangerous. I can't imagine, especially the Navy. Where do you have to go except for the water? You know. But yeah, just thank you for the comment. Yeah.
Joe, this next one here is for you. I mean, it's from you, but you can read it too.
Oh, yeah. So when you were speaking about Transnistria, I was reminded of the current kind of state of Transnistria, which is part of, well, it's complicated. It's either part of Moldova or it's its own independent country, depending on who you ask. And it's kind of like a Soviet rump state in many ways. They still have a hammer and sickle on their flag. And yeah, it's anyway. So
Yeah,
you're talking about that reminded
the
me?
Republic. Yeah, there's in Moldova. There's the regular Republic of Moldova, but then they have an autonomous republic, which is after a people called the Gaguz, who are a Turkic-speaking people. Also very cool, because they're I think they're the only Turkic-speaking peoples that are Christians. So they're Eastern Orthodox majority. They're not Muslim. So I think they're the only ones, if I'm not mistaken. And then they have this breakaway republic, which I guess is kind of autonomous, but then like Moldova's not really there, which is Transnistria. And they border on the Russian-speaking part of Ukraine. And as you mentioned, it is like I've seen travel videos of people who have gone there. It's actually quite safe to go there. But I think they have their own currency, or they use the ruble, but basically everything is Russia. And yeah, it's back to the old days of the Soviet Union. Yeah, kind of
There
cool.
is
I'd like
you mentioned the Galgus minority. There's a traditional Gagus song on my channel if anyone would like to hear it.
Oh, really? Okay, I want to go. I want to go listen to that. Yeah, I find them just totally fascinating. The fact that, like again, like Romania is the only Latin-speaking language that aren't Catholic; they're Orthodox, and then the Gagus are like the only Turkic peoples that are majority Christians. It's just how that works is kind of cool. I don't know, really interesting. So yeah, from Miss Sunshine Dawn, we have this period of history is fascinating. 3 of my grandparents served during World War II. Dad's dad never talked about it. Dad's mom rarely talked about it, but mom's dad told fascinating stories about it. Yeah, one of my ancestors, and I mentioned this when I did the whole one of my first PowerPoints on my history with history from I guess a couple months ago, was that my great uncle, who I didn't get to meet, he passed away a couple of years before I was born, but my grandma's brother served in the Canadian Army or Air Force and fought through the Battle of Normandy, Operation Market Garden, the liberation of the Netherlands. Never talked about it at all. And then unfortunately, he passed away very young. He was only in his 50s, but never said a word about the war. So, quite tragic when that happens. But I sympathize with people. I think maybe had he gotten older, he would have been more vocal and come to terms with it. But there are definitely people who saw horrendous things and kind of kept it to themselves, unfortunately.
I think a lot of times when we survive trauma, and then if you talk about war, I think that's probably the highest level of trauma that one of the highest levels of trauma that one can go through. For some people, you just want to avoid it. It's a coping mechanism. Sometimes I understand that people don't necessarily want to be re-traumatized and talk about it. And, even though it can be healing, all of that nowadays, but especially in older generations when like mental health is not a topic of conversation.
Yeah, it wasn't something, was not something people really discussed unless they were among their friends who were in the war. So if they went to, I don't know what you would call it, we would call it, I guess, like the VA, the Veterans Administration, or the veterans halls, I guess, where, they had this social halls where they'd have a small bar and whatever, and the vets would all get together once a year or whatever, or sometimes it's an actual concert hall and bar. But they would go to those places and they would only talk about it with their friends who were there because, and by the way, I mean, not to say it's the same thing, to be honest with you, because it's not. But once you leave a group like Scientology, the only people I really spoke about it until somewhat recently was only other ex-Scientologists, because nobody else understands. Like nobody knows what you're going through. You know what I mean? And I'm sure it's the same with other groups. Like it doesn't have to be, I know, very different to be in a combat situation, but even if you go through something that's just isolating or weird and traumatic as well, I know other, probably the same with abuse survivors and so forth. You really kind of start to feel comfortable around other survivors. And then eventually, once you're comfortable around them, you'll be comfortable around other people. So, it happens.
Sense, yeah. Especially something like Scientology that has their own language, their own system, that is very hard. It's Scientology. I think one of the biggest problems with bringing Scientology to I'm not going to say just, but to be accountable, or to is having people understand what it is, because it's so complex. So
Yeah, the whole shame of it too, because you kind of feel really dumb when you leave a group like that. You're like, I feel like you feel dumb. You feel like you've been taken in by a fraud, and how you're smart. How could you fall for that kind of thing? And then it goes into a shame spiral. But
and that's the part of the experience that I can relate with. That having being a survivor of abuse of a different kind, but you can relate to the shame, to all of that, and then it takes a while for you to start talking even to other people and all.
Yeah, the whole why didn't you leave earlier, and then you start saying why didn't I leave earlier? Then why didn't I do it earlier? And it's not a healthy thing, but it happens.
I like it when Marilyn she says nowadays, like, she likes saying the name of her cult leader, because it's so empowering to her. Because I understand that, like, although some people say, like, I don't like saying like Hubbard's name or Keith Raniere's name, you say a different name because of the kind of relationship you had with the name and the but in her case, because also I think she only started speaking about it more recently, it's really empowering, like only that really happened. It's validating, like that really happened. I'm not crazy. This person was evil indeed.
Yeah. It's true. I've been there.
That's actually
Yeah.
that's actually the same thing, unfortunately, that people say to a lot of domestic abuse survivors is, why didn't you leave sooner?
Oh, I
As
heard
if
that.
it's that simple, you know?
Why did you get married if you already knew this? If you already knew that? Why did you stay? Why didn't you tell somebody? Why did you? The shame, yeah. Joe Giuseppe said something he had. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it is. It's just sad, but people they personalize other people's stuff, and so if they think to themselves, "Well, I wouldn't do it," that means that another person wouldn't do it, and that to me, it's kind of nasty, and I don't think people have the resources. Maybe now people are getting more aware of it, but certainly in the past, it wasn't like, again, if I wouldn't have done it, so why did you do it? But that's not how life works. So like, you kind of got be compassionate and get over that line of thinking. Like if I wouldn't have done something, it means other people shouldn't have done it. But you're not in the same situation, so
But even simpler than that, not in the same situation, because even simpler than that is say, I wouldn't have done it. You don't know. You didn't go through it.
Yep.
Maybe you've done something else that you just didn't have the chance to. Like didn't happen.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Chad, you want to read this next comment here?
Sure thing. The main synagogue in
Bucharesti
is now a Jewish museum. I have pictures if helpful.
Oh yes, of course. I did not get a chance.
And if you would like to share the screen, it's there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've been to Bucharest, but I didn't go to the synagogue. I don't know why. I should have gone, but
that's beautiful.
Wow.
And unfortunately, we didn't realize, me and my partner didn't realize when we were there, that it's a museum, because we thought, oh, it's just a synagogue, and so kind of didn't go in it because we're not Jewish. But if we'd known it was a museum, then we'd have gone in. But anyway, there's the entrance.
It's beautiful.
Different angle.
That's really nice.
And there's also the Ceausescu's palace, which is there. And this was the picture used for the thumbnail. So that's now the Parliament building.
I didn't realize that was a picture that you had taken.
Wow, me neither.
And
it's a beautiful city.
Palace, which is Ceausescu's palace, which is now the Parliament building, is apparently the heaviest building in Europe or something. So
how do they
communist engineering?
Yeah, but
so
Bucharest is named the Paris of the East or something like that, or like the Little Paris. Like there's a name like this because the architecture, I think, from Ceausescu basically essentially made it so to look like Paris. So like they have their own arc. They have like a Champs-Élysées area. Like they have almost everything that you find in Paris, you find in Bucharest. And all the architecture.
Very nice.
Yeah, the Arc de Triomphe is called Arc de Triomphe or something.
Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just copied it, and they have these long boulevards that go between, because the main city is like all of these big buildings, and then there's like all these boulevards and what are they called? Roundabouts that connect everything. And so it's pretty interesting. And and they have like a river, but I think it's artificial if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it isn't, but again, everything is supposed to look like Paris.
Unfortunately, a lot of those boulevards, which were built during the Ceausescu era, were built after bulldozing a lot of the old city.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Anyway, there we go.
Is that it? Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Cu piacere. De nada.
Heavenly, that's what it means. I forgot. Heavenly Barney says when we were talking about the election, and then Joe said the election. Evelyn says our election in the U.S. Only pretends to do better. There's so much puppeteering behind the scenes. But yes, I do vote for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Another comment from Joe here, because Joe was.
Oh, it's me again.
Yeah, it's you. There's a lot from you. Because his wife was high in the Communist Party too. People joked it was
Yeah.
communism in one family, like Stalin's communism in one country.
Yes, she was. Yeah, Elena. Elena
Mhm.
was, right there with him to the end. You know, I mean, they say behind every
you
good man is a good woman, but behind every dictator, there's a woman of equal dictation. I guess I don't know. I mean, look at Evita with Perón. So
Dictatorship.
you know,
Dictate.
Eva Braun with Hitler, and what's his name, Mussolini's wife. I mean, they always stay with them to the end. Maybe there's an abuse thing going on there. You never know.
Or who knows? Maybe they actually is like an opposite. They actually treated their spouse good, which would be amazing. I doubt it, but you never know.
Yeah, of course they did. Yeah, I mean, there's always that story with like Adolf Hitler treated animals better than
Yeah.
most
Yep.
humans.
Yep.
So, like, he enacted like the first ever laws to protect dogs from being beaten and abandoned, which is like then he went on and slaughtered 11 million human beings. But when it came to dogs, he was, a humanitarian. It's life is just weird, And then,
Yeah.
Eva Braun was probably this tough German woman who kept them in check. She
Yeah.
was for sure. And it's probably the same with Elena. I mean, by his side, to the end, literally to the end. I mean, say what you
I
want,
can
but
say
they were
that
loyal to some extent.
Mussolini's wife was not with him at the end because when
Right,
he was
okay.
discovered by the Partigiani and executed. I can't go into too much detail here on YouTube, but
Yeah.
he was found with his mistress. So
Right. Yeah.
so there we go.
All right,
Yeah.
May the 4th. I have a couple comments here. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Is that it? I'm sorry. Did I interrupt anybody?
Not me.
Okay. So May the 4th be with you has a couple comments here.
Hmm?
Who wants to?
I can do that one. So it was awesome. I love a good history lecture. I was educating California and 13 years in Eugene, Oregon, but both parents are from Norway. So of course, multilingual and well-informed on world politics. That's cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yep.
2 parents from Norway. Yeah, Norwegian. I've done a little bit of Norwegian on Duolingo, and I find it to be really easy. So maybe I'll get into learning more in the future once I'm done Finnish, which is insane. But yeah,
Jeg elsker brunost.
yeah. Is that Norwegian? I don't know.
I don't.
Yeah, that
Norwegian?
means I love this special cheese they have in Norway. Don't worry. Carry on.
I love it when it sounds so fancy. Like, what is that? I love cheese.
Yeah.
You're saying something so smart and so. I love cheese. May the
Well,
4th
cheese
also
is good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue with that. This is also for you, Mark. It's all May the 4th. They were interacting with the last comment when you were commenting.
So
about
Captain Jacob Bacher left the ship last. Photos of him laying on a wooden rowboat, lungs filled of oil. Ooh, yikes. Yeah.
And there's this one.
Yeah. And then my grandfather shook after the second ship was sunk, and he only sailed on ships that didn't captain afterwards. Larvik, where grandma, my dad, and aunt lived, was invaded. Yeah. And dad was 7, lots of stories. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. In Norway, whew, yeah. They had a good resistance movement in Norway also, which was, I think, supplied by the British and Americans. So they put up a good fight against the Germans. And then parents are atheists. Church religion in Norway is Lutheran, so never went to any organized religion. So of course I went into Christianity, then made my mom take me to Sunday school at 5. Rebellion. Rebellion happens all the time, right?
There's this
And then,
comment
yeah.
from this group here again. This person, this woman, this statement.
Yeah, I don't know who this is.
Me neither.
So Moldovans speak Romanian, but they
Yeah.
swear Russian, in my experience. And oh, I've lost my. There we go. Stupid thing. Moldovans speak Romanian, but they swear in Russian, in my experience. So when I was learning Romanian, I was working with some Moldovans, and we would speak in Romanian, and I'd practice my Romanian. But one day, one of them managed to spill some hot water on their hand, and they immediately shouted "Suka bliat."
Which is Russian.
Yeah, and
So there we
that's
go.
another thing, by the way. Another thing, by the way, in Europe, I can give a couple examples of languages that are the same, but they have different names. But if you're in front of people who think that they're different, you say that they're different. So, for example, the Catalan language and the Valencian language are the same, but if someone from Valencia says no, it's different, just go along with it. And it's the same amongst Serbian, Croatian, Montenegrin, and Bosnian. They all swear they're different. It's not, but if you're in their presence, it's different. And then, of course, Romanian and Moldovan people swear. If they're from Moldova, they swear it's different. Just go along with it. There's no point to say, well, technically, because actually, it's different. It's the same because just go along with it. Just
Now, the
just be a good sport.
Moldovans I knew had no problem saying they speak Romanian, so probably depends on the person.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah, maybe it does. True.
Peace and love.
Yes, famous Romanians Ceausescu, Nadia Comaneci. I remember her. She was a gymnast, I think. And then
think so, yeah.
Dracula. Dracula is a Hungarian, unfortunately, but I get it. Famous Transylvanian. It's a CK Hungarian, but we take ownership over him. But I won't dock you. I won't dock you. You got three. You got them all three right.
There you go. Frezino has one here. If Chad wants to read one.
Sure. Free Xenu says, Mark, you bring up a good point. People seem not to see to know the outcome and didn't experience it first. So it was easy to evaluate what already happened and not see your personal strife.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
to
and that's kind of referring back to being. Yeah. That's sort of referring back to like people who sort of overgeneralize on trauma and you should have left, whatever. Yeah, it's very, very true. Frizinu, they just don't see the whole situation. They only see the situations they're in and what they would have done. But again, it doesn't work with other people, and it's always too simple. That's another thing. Like things are complicated, so we tend to oversimplify other people's life. Because we're not living it. Unfortunately, we only get little specks of other people's life when we're interpreting. We live with ourselves 24/7, but we don't live with other people 24/7. So we could make a lot more leaps when it comes to other people than us. And I'm hoping at least I think more people are getting more aware of it, at least in some circles. But it's something that you just deal with. It sucks, but you have to kind of deal with that, especially when you leave an abusive relationship, a cult experience, or destructive group or whatever. You can't control other people. So,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just got confused with the head there. So I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, good.
Let me put it up.
No, it's all good.
Firsthand. So I was trying to understand. Didn't experience firsthand. Very good point. And Sophia has one last comment that I have starred here. Didn't Brown's family try to sue for inheritance or something?
That's Eva Brown, maybe. I don't know too much. Yeah, so Eva Brown's family tried to sue.
All Hitler's stuff was bombed, though, so I don't know what you would get. Maybe the land.
Well, he would have had a lot of. I mean, a lot. The Nazis had a lot of money, and they had a lot of artwork, and they had a lot of bottles of wine that they stole, especially from the Jewish community, and a lot of that went into Switzerland. And then at the end of the war, there was no one claiming it, so a lot of like Swiss banks and stuff were kind of founded on gold and stuff that weren't claimed. However, there have been in the preceding years, there have been Jews in Germany, especially, who have sued the German government, either to get back some of their artwork, There was a famous movie that was just recently, I forget the name of it, with Helen Mirren and Ryan Reynolds. You guys can look this one up. And Helen Mirren plays a Holocaust survivor. I think her aunt paints a painting which is stolen by the Germans, and then it appears in a museum in Austria, and she tries to get it back. So I can't remember the name of this, but it was a good movie, very, very good movie. And Ryan Reynolds plays like an American lawyer who tries to help her. So that has happened. But then also, it's unfortunate. Like, I kind of like Switzerland. It's kind of an interesting place to have friends there, but like, that's their sin, right? Like they just didn't return all the gold, and these bankers got extremely wealthy on, stolen money that nobody claimed, which is very sad, but life, right? Life is life.
Woman in Gold.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
It is. It's really tragic. But again, there are these like glimmers of hope where, there was restitution to victims of the Holocaust, and other things, payments and land back and things like this, that did end up happening after the Second World War. So good and bad, right? Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Woman in Gold.
That's the one. Yes, that's the one. Yeah. I think it's just
So-
a few years ago, I think 2000 something, 17, 18, 15? Oh, okay. So yeah, a good movie, very good movie, and yeah, I think it was based on a true story. If not, it's not. I think it was maybe based on a book. But there's lots and lots of cases like that where someone goes to a museum or is flipping through a magazine or a newspaper, and they see an heirloom that they remembered as a child hung up in a museum somewhere. Which again, that's not really the fault of the museum necessarily. It's just this is what happens, and then they have to go through legal means. Yeah.
It's a biographical drama film, it says on Wikipedia. So there you go.
Yeah. There's also comically, by the way, a Simpsons episode to lighten the mood, call about Grandpa Simpson, who, by the way, during World War II served in every branch of the military, according to him, and was in every theater of war. So who knows if it's true? But he has a squad called the Flying Hellfish, and they go into Germany with Monty Burns and a bunch of fathers of Barney and Seymour Skinner's father and Chief Wiggum's father, and they go and they liberate a castle and they find all this art. So then they hide it, and then eventually it comes back, and then they have to give it over to a spoiled, rotten German kid who has no appreciation for the art. It's a hysterical episode. If you are Simpsons fans, you probably know it.
I wonder if he's related to L. Ron Hubbard. He was in every branch of the military and did everything. Was
Yeah.
a hero.
Yeah, it's true. It's true because another party's in the Navy, and like there's actually another funny thing where he's on the Navy's on the PT boat with what's his name? John F. Kennedy was a PT boat commander, patrol boat commander in the Pacific. So Grandpa Simpson claims that he was on the same PT boat as Kennedy, but then he's also a soldier. And well, anyway, it doesn't make any sense, but it's hysterical. But yeah, Toamna este cu adevărat ce mai tristă perioadă pentru Kiev. Yeah. I just got
Okay.
autumn is something
Now,
the most something
Read it
period.
before you read it for real. Let me read it. Domna looks a lot like Toma, which can be take or whatever. Este is literally this. Is the word, right? So, Toma este cu sounds very bad. Toma este cu, like it's like take this ass, but it's so bad.
Oh,
Also
I'm so clipping this.
Also because there's an expression that's it's so weird to say this because okay, if anybody gets demonetized because of this, I'm sorry. Tomar no cu, especially if you say vai tomar no cu, it's like go fuck yourself. Get fucked. Right? So
I can get like 60% of that because there's just two words I forget. There's two words I forget, but I can get pretty much everything else. Two or three words I don't know.
what I'm saying, but my Portuguese
Yeah.
is really ruining this for me. And then they have a giraffe, a sad giraffe. Triste período mesmo giraffe. So
Triste, sim.
there's a sad giraffe being fucked in the ass. I'm sorry, I just
Vai,
wanted to
Plin. Vai
before you
ver.
act this seriously because you know that I just can't. That's pure Portuguese. Este cu. Okay, toma no cu, giraffe. What is it now?
Okay,
So it's
Tuan,
pronounced in Romanian, it's Toamna este cu adevărat ce mai tristă perioadă pentru girafe. And so I don't know adevărat, I forget, and I also forget triste, but it's autumn is
know
with
it.
something, the most something period for something.
Yeah, autumn is the saddest period for giraffes.
o
Is that what it is?
outono é realmente a época mais triste para as girafas.
O outono é realmente a época mais triste para girafas. Autumn is really the saddest period for
Oh.
giraffes.
Autumn is truly the saddest time for
Yeah.
giraffes.
Okay, now
Because the
triste
leaves
makes
fall.
sense that it's sad. Yeah.
Yeah,
My Romanian
tristeza.
is, but yeah, okay. Autumn is the saddest period for trees. Okay. I don't know why that is. Why is that?
The leaves fall down from the trees.
Yes.
Because according to my
yes.
partner, yeah, because anyway.
Because Joe
I got the
recruited
clip I
me to
wanted, so
giraffe
we're all good.
Joe recruited me to their giraffe.
Yeah.
Joe's
But
partner
I
is
also
the
like the fact
computer,
that
Joe's the
What
computer.
when I read Romanian, there's some words I just get automatically, like perioada. Oh, it's period. Cool. Like it's not what we have in Hungarian.
Interesting period, yeah.
I like that.
There's an interesting pronunciation difference here as well. That you said
Yeah.
yeste. When I was learning, it was something more like yeshte.
Really?
The E was slightly separate and the S was sh, yeshte, something like that.
Really? Because
Can it
in
be-
Hungarian, that same word is este, but and I always mispronounce it. When I'm in Romanian class, I always end up saying este, but it's yeste or yeste. But it doesn't matter. It's all accental differences too. They're both accepted.
I was gonna say because, for example, we have the exact same word in Portuguese, right? Este.
Yeah.
You can pronounce este. Like my native pronunciation would be the S, like este. Right? But for almost 20 years, I live in a place where most people say este. So
let me look that up. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is yeste. Maybe because sometimes even I forget. Let me look it up.
I mean, I guess technically it would have a thing on the S, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so that's not Portuguese then. In Portuguese, it's exactly like that. Este. This S.
Yeah, I have it as este, but maybe it is yeste. Again, it's like one of those things where, because I'm trying to think now, because when we conjugate to be, it's jau sunt, tu jest, Jelia este. I think it is yeste, and then it's noi suntem, voi suntați, ei ela sunt. So yeah, maybe it is. Like again, maybe that's just an accental difference, but who knows? I think it's yeste how I learned it. Anyway, again, doesn't really matter, but yeah.
Chad, what do you think about the autumn being the saddest time of year for giraffes?
Chad agrees.
What do you think Marty can do for that to help the giraffes out? The giraffes of Clearwater.
Well, you got to read Marty's plan. Marty's plan is on Nexus Lexus for anyone that has the time to research it.
Okay, does he talk about the giraffes? You should let him know that's an important subject for the giraffe.
Definitely.
Joe
Marty's
is
pro giraffe.
He's pro giraffe. Okay, because Marty's getting my confidence. Like obviously he's, I'm still voting for Mark Banker, but but Mark Banker banks on Scientology. I'd like to know what Marty has to say about Scientology and the giraffes. Those are two very important
All right, maybe it'll be in his next video.
topics for me here in Clearwater, Brazil.
No
Oh yeah,
chamamos
what
a
is that called? The
girafes.
one issue voting. I just want to know what you think about giraffes. I don't care about the rest.
What'd you say, Joe?
Nós amamos as girafes.
Nós amamos a girafa. There you go.
Oh, that Portuguese
Maximum
is
Portuguese.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
What a
don't have to say
shushas.
it like that. Because when you say like not, nos, or noise, like I said, they're both pronunciation. But when you say not and then you say amamos after that, so when you have like the end of a word in a consonant and then you
Chad.
begin with a vowel sound, you kind of pronounce it in English. It's the same. You kind of pronounce it as if it were one word. So you'll say like nós amamos a girafa. Instead of nós amamos, because it's harder. You just say nós amamos a girafa, like a Z. Nós amamos a girafa.
So it's interesting as well, is that you're pronouncing the S more as an S and less as a sh, whereas European Portuguese would always be sh.
Oh, that is true. That
All
is
the
true. I'm
time.
talking about my experience, but
Yeah.
yeah. Actually, the city where I'm from, where I live, has a very strong European Portuguese. Of course, we're colonized by Portuguese, but very strong Azorian colonization. So the native accent here is very like a sh, very, very much. But I don't think you would say nós amamos as girafas like this, because in between words you would say a Z sound. I think here in Brazil, you would say nós amamos as girafas. You would say the Z sound instead of the sh sound. Those guys are laughing because Marty's pro rainforest.
That's a verified fact.
And because
Peace and Love has
Marty-
a good comment too.
Marty wants to vote Marty wants to vote of spotted owl extremist groups.
That's true. It's a verified fact. He wants to win over the spotted
I got
owl
something
group.
for Chad.
What's he gonna do? Peace and Love says giraffe theme song. We stand tall. Yeah,
Oh,
Helicopter
that is
has
funny.
a video.
That is funny.
It's a good one. I gotta say, Peace and Love. That's a good one. That gave me the that gave me a Griff Calzone level laughs right there.
Nice.
That was good. That's Chad level.
Let me see if I can find this. Oh, Joe.
That's true.
Oh, Joe's back. Hang on. Let me see if I can find this.
Nice.
Oh, it's cute, Joe.
That is cute.
Nice plush.
What happened? What did I miss?
Oh, she's got a giraffe.
Yeah.
Where is it? I'm sorry, I missed it. I wasn't.
Juliana, you missed it.
I did. So cute! Look at the giraffe. Oh, that is so cute. I wanted to find. I think Helicopter has a video with the giraffes, doesn't she?
Oh, I
She
don't
does. I need to see this.
I've
Or
heard
as we
about
say
it.
in
I'm
Cockney,
trying.
helicopter. I'm gonna bust out my Cockney soon.
know.
That'll be my third
Helicopter.
character. Helicopter.
Nice.
Helicopter. Helicopter.
I don't know. It's yeah, just drop the first letter of everything.
And make
Yeah, I don't
sure
know
the
where it
last thing is like a schwa, like Romanian, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, Love stole that from Helicopter. Yeah, if you have the link for that, I'm trying to
Ooh.
find it because I've heard her speak about this before.
Giraffe
I know she
content
has-
is always relevant to my interests.
I know, right? And I know there's content with that too. But I think it's a fantastic idea. I just don't know where to find it. Otherwise, we could watch it. I don't know if we could watch it, but I think we could watch it. Anyway, save the giraffes. Vote for Marty. What's his last name?
Crandall.
Marty Crandall. There you go. Ooh, very good comment we got here.
Yeah.
Catherine, hi. It's an exciting, somewhat nervous time here in LA Hollywood. Anticipate the 1 p.m. Freedom Rally at CC.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. It
That's
is
cool. Yeah.
I almost forgot about that.
3:50 my
Yeah.
time, and I know they're going live at 5 my time. So I imagine that's 1 there. That's when it's gonna be, right? So I know some channels
Sounds
are
like
gonna
10
be
or something
streaming.
my time.
Okay. I
Yeah,
know
how
some
long?
channels
How
are
long?
gonna.
One. I think one is 10 o'clock my time, so that would be. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go on. I'm so sorry.
Well, it's almost 4 here now. It's 3:50 here now, and I know Liz Ferris is going live at 5 my time. So in 2 hours. Oh, in 1
Ah,
hour.
good.
1 hour and 10 minutes.
Good. I almost forgot about that. It's a good
Yeah.
reminder.
So Liz Ferris, the Grey Daughters of Dianetics, the Grey Zone, Vanessa LaRose, Lara FM,
Oh.
Alexa, I don't know her last name, the organizer of protest that eat predators. You're gonna stream on your channel too. Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Very
For the
cool.
first awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
so make sure to check that out too.
For
Let me see if I can sub to that person's channel.
That's what I'm
so
trying to
this
do
is
here.
1 p.m. Los Angeles time, I presume.
Yeah,
hmm
it's in
Yeah. So
So it's
about
9
7.
o'clock for you, Joe. 10 o'clock for me.
9 p.m. UK time, 10
Yeah.
p.m. Hungary time,
Mm-hmm.
and 4 p.m. Clearwater time, EDT. So
Yes.
I mean, yeah, this is
The
why
universal.
everyone has to go off of Clearwater time. It's just much easier.
True.
Yep. Mario will be talking about that on
We'll
his
make
next
it the new
video.
Greenwich means. New Universal Standard Time is this Clearwater time. Clearwater chat time, actually.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Ezra, can you post
UTC,
just
Universal Time Clearwater.
Yeah.
There you go. That's not confusing at all.
No,
Casper,
not at all.
can you post just the @ I don't even know whose channel you're on.
Yeah, I don't know
but
who's. I can't find it either.
if you're because I'm on StreamYard, so I don't know where you are. If you're on my channel, let me see where you are. Because then moderators can see and post. But if you can post at least the @ I can grab the link and post the link here to your channel. It's gonna be one of those days. I'm gonna have to have lots of tabs open.
Mhm.
Hopefully, people will be streaming from different names and all of that. You know, the last
Yep.
one, Eat Predators was streaming, and then Lara was also streaming. So I would, watch different angles and kind of almost makes you feel like you're there, since you can't be there.
Levin Smith was supposed to go, but he backed out last minute.
Yeah.
Okay, at casriofhecate.com. Thank you. Let me get that here.
Yeah, we might as well give the views to the smaller channels.
Oh, absolutely. I'm always prioritizing, like, either because I want to be in the chat or because I moderate for them. So, for example, I moderate for Liz Ferris, for the Grey Daughters, and for Vanessa. So I might, just be around just to sort of monitor the chats a little. But definitely gonna give watch hours to smaller channels.
Yep.
Because that's who we are. Kazri of Hecate. Hang on. Kazri of Hecate.com. Find it for the here.
But yeah, do we want to talk a little bit about next week? I think because we're going to be doing a Halloween based. If people will dress up, again, I will be debuting a new character, which you'll have to wait for. But it will be in the same universe as Griff Calzone and our Clearwater associated characters. I don't know what the ladies will be dressing up as, but at the same time, whatever you want. I'm
Nice.
thinking maybe Juliana, you can do your BTs, or you can maybe do an auditor. I was trying to get you to do a pantsuit with a scarf, and so you can be a Scientology auditor. You just have to stare the whole time and yell at us. That'll be the character. And then I don't know, Joe.
I'll repeat the auditing question.
Do you ever
I got
whistle
here.
just for the heck of it?
Okay, so
Remember a time when you
Kazri,
communicated well?
live from LA. Here you go.
Oh, awesome.
It is on my channel, on Chad's channel, and on the Versivo's channel. I posted the link. This is to Kazri's stream. And then also check out Liz Fair's, Vanessa LaRose, The Great Daughter. I think Vanessa is going to be streaming on both channels. Laura FM, because I'm sure, we're going to be able to catch different camera angles and different things happening. Last time, Kazri says here, that's why I'm a little nervous. Who knows what will go down? So I don't know if this is in reference to her, if it's just. But last time, this guy that he claimed to work in the area, they were protesting around back base, and I don't know if it's the base, but just that one building. I'm not sure. But anyway, this guy came and he started asking them to protest quieter or something, because they were talking to them. No, and Laura was like, no, we're allowed to do this for 2 hours, and this and that and the other. And then the guy got mad and he yanked her phone off her hand, and then he broke her accidentally, but he broke her selfie stick.
Wow.
Safe. You guys be safe out there.
Wow. Yeah. That stuff happens.
Yeah.
Joe, you want to say something?
Yeah, so that's right. So first of all, I'm going to say to Sophia, ja, stimmt about the American time zones. And secondly, to Juliana, so anybody who's been watching Juliana's channel has probably been seeing the studying, a lot of studying. She's been working very hard. And, well, it looks like it to me. I was fooled if nobody else was. And you got some results recently, didn't you? So I want to say parabéns to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Would you like to share your results?
I have successfully taken my first exam in my new program, and I have aced it. And I passed the class.
Oh, good. That's awesome.
Parabéns.
Congratulations.
And I did a lot of that studying on camera for sure. I feel like I'm a little behind now in art history. I'm studying art history now also because I started behind on that class, which was called Creativity and Innovation. Basically, my program would do like a class a month. So you just study that one class for 1 month, and then you take exams like you have tests. Every week you have to study the content for that week, and you take a test, and it's all online. But we have, and then we have like a tutoring class once a week about that week's topics. It's a lot. And then when we finish that month, you schedule a day to go to the school and take an actual exam there. Because the exams you take at the computer, they're more like they're graded and everything. But you can take your time. You can start and leave and come back, and you can check your material, And the actual exam is the one that you go there and you just sit there, and with lots of different. It's very weird because there's lots of different people taking different exams because they're all taking for their own programs, and they're all in this hybrid mode. So people are taking whatever exams they're taking, but they have everything, and then when you finish, you have the sheet with your answers, and then you actually scan that. You scan your answers on the app on your cell phone. So they don't even correct it. Like it's all still on the app, but you do it there in front of other people. So you're physically there so that, they know it's you. And it's very interesting. So yeah, I finished my first class.
That's great.
That's great. Yeah, that's amazing.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Sophia, Book Rumor, Evelyn, everybody who's saying congratulations. All right, you guys. Anything else? Anybody else want to say anything else? Or should we start
I'm
getting
good.
ready for the
Yeah.
protest in an hour?
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait to see that. I used to do a lot of protesting down in those areas when I lived there a long time ago. So we always did the Pac Base, the Celebrity Center, and then a couple buildings on Hollywood Boulevard, which was really cool. Other Services Incorporated, Test Center was down there. So yeah, I kind of regret not going to Gold, but yeah, that's the only one I never got to do. But they're
That
always
seems like
fun.
quite a
They're always
to
fun.
protest.
I hope they have one
I'm
in
sorry?
Clearwater again.
Yeah.
Have they had one in Clearwater before? Protest?
Yeah,
I
they've
mean,
had a
back
lot.
in the
I don't know about this
back in the
area,
days of
like this part, but people have been protesting Clearwater for years.
oh yeah, yeah. makes
If they
sense.
gave us some notice,
All
I mean,
right,
California was a little too far, but I wouldn't mind going to one in Clearwater.
So I just wanted to.
Yeah.
You were gonna say something, Joe? I'm sorry.
I was going to say I got to get going soon. So
Yeah, no. Let's
worries,
let's.
yeah.
thank you,
Yeah, we'll-
everybody, and
cut it, yep.
thank you, Mark, for the very interesting presentation. I'm always
Thank you.
fascinated by history.
Always fascinated
What
by
was
Mark's
that?
dogs.
Gotta show the Jay Leno somewhere before we go.
Jay Leno Smurf.
Yep.
Well, why not? Okay, Jay Leno Smith
Just-
is.
Jay Leno Smurf. I
And
love
until
Jay
next
Leno.
time,
That's awesome. Thanks everyone
So,
for
guys-
watching.
love
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
giraffes.
The
Yep.
giraffe leader here, Joe DeSeppo herself, who has just left us like that.
Nice.
Like giraffe, poo, gone. And now she has the beautiful art that she has there. Where else? Where's Mark? We have Mark Turi at Mark A. Turi. I am at Scientologist and the Godfather at Clearwater Chat 9037. And we are the Nerdy Bunch. And we'll see you guys next week for
See ya.
Halloween.
Yeah, that's
Hey
great.
guys.
You guys.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye, everyone.